Last year, nearly 5,000 stomachs were stapled and over 1,000 gastric bands fitted on the NHS. But fixing the psychological problems of these overeaters remains an ongoing battle, and it's not always an easy ride. On Fat Surgeons, two people at very different stages of their weight loss journeys. For 37-stone Ian McConnell, this is the start of his new life.
I've never been as big as I am now, but I'm too scared to look in the mirror. On the occasions I have to, I think, good gracious, am I really that fat? Why hasn't anybody told me?
But for Dan Reaney, it's been a long and troubled road.
I had to stop drinking. It was essential for me to stop drinking because it was going to kill me. You know, I've tasted the life that successful bariatric surgery can give you.
Expect graphic scenes of gastric bypass surgery on Fat Surgeons. Southampton in Hampshire, home to 59-year-old Ian McConnell. Ian is a single parent with two teenage daughters, Holly and Katie. For years, he's struggled with his weight. Now he is super morbidly obese, with a body mass index of 67 and tipping the scales at 37 stone. Food has been his life.
I've always enjoyed food. My mother was always very generous, and she'd say when I got fatter later on that he was big-boned rather than he was fat. There'd always be a cooked meal at lunchtime. There would always be what we call tea at about 5 or 6, and then later on there would be supper. But then I'm going back to the 50s or 60s where people weren't as aware of diets and the need to eat healthily like they are now. I have two daughters. They're now in their teens. They've been living with me since they were about 3.5 and 4.5 on my own, and I'm ashamed to say why that in itself has not been the impetus to get me to lose weight. I do not know, but it hasn't.
Ian's brought up the girls since his marriage ended.
Probably first aware when things started going downhill with my mum. So like when my dad became a single parent, it's quite obvious then that he'd put on a lot of weight. He just formed like a bond, I guess, with food.
Holly can only just remember when her dad put on the weight.
Obviously the weight gain started when I was quite little, so I expect I probably haven't really known him or seen him in anything like this, so it'd be nice to be able to see what he'd be like in this.
I've always had trouble buying clothes, understandably. I've gone up with the extra large to 2XL to 3XL. I've never been a person to look in the mirror, but I'm too scared to look in the mirror now. On the occasions I have to, I think, and particularly when I've had 1 or 2 photographs taken recently at work, and when I've seen the picture back, I've thought, good gracious, am I really that fat? Why hasn't anybody told me I'm that fat?
This is basically all of Dad's clothes. Quite a smart white suit, which is obviously too small for him at the moment, but I'm sure he'd love to get back into something smart like that to go out in, because he doesn't really go out now because of his size and stuff. Also, things like just normal jeans and day-to-day things instead of having to wear like just tracksuits and stuff. This, yeah, got a tag on it, so looks like a pair of trousers. He's obviously wanted to get into them, but probably been too small.
Ian's weight restricts everything he does. Getting out of the car is a struggle. Walking down the street is almost impossible.
I've never been as big as I am now. I've always, as far as I can remember, been dieting or trying to watch my weight, but I'm ashamed to say I've never had the willpower to actually decide what to do and then stick with it. It is harder to walk. I am getting out of breath after a period of time. It is suddenly an effort to get up from an armchair. I think it's been a gradual lack of awareness of the right food to eat and eating it not being a problem, and then suddenly age, situation, it becoming a problem.
Ian has been referred to the bariatric clinic at St Richard's Hospital in Chichester. He's hoping that surgeon Shaw Summers can offer him a weight loss operation. Not everyone who comes to the clinic qualifies as a suitable case for surgery. Shaw operates on around 300 obese patients each year at various hospitals in London and on the South Coast.
Carrying excess weight is not just a physical thing that you have to lug around. Having that extra burden of fat does a number of things to the body. People who carry a lot of fat have changed metabolisms that mean that their body is constantly running with a slight inflammatory process, and that in itself gives rise to problems like diabetes and metabolic syndrome.
Although Ian already suffers from many of these problems, it's not certain that he'll get the surgery. He still needs NHS funding for his operation. And even if he has the surgery, it may be a difficult journey back to a normal life. On the South Downs in Sussex lives Dan Reaney. She has a BMI of 44.2 and weighs 22 stone 1 pound. Dan has had to face many problems since she had gastric bypass surgery nearly 6 years ago.
Do you want me to start doing some vegetables for you? I'll start doing that.
Dan lives with husband Dave. He's shared her battle with obesity, the successes and the failures. Dan was slim until her late teens, when she began comfort eating. As her weight ballooned, she got caught in a vicious cycle of overeating and declining self-esteem.
On one particular occasion, I went into the ladies in one pub, and there were 3 girls in there, and they turned around and looked at me and said, "Oh, we've got to get out of here, there's no room now." And I just burst into tears, and when I went home, I started eating enough just to reinforce, you know, I shouldn't have been seen out in public, really. It's still, you know, people that I don't know and will never see again, still have, I hold in my heart. It's ridiculous. And that's the effect that people have, and they don't realise how much they hurt. And it's just, you know, other people have they've ruined my life to date. But they won't. I'll have the last laugh. I will.
And she did. Dan found happiness when she married Dave in 2004. She already weighed 24 stone. But 2 years later, she had put on another 7 stone. Obesity ran in the family. Her brother Martin weighed 40 stone at the time and was also seeking help.
The usual comment that's thrown is, well, you know, why don't you just diet and lose weight? Well, if it was that easy, then there wouldn't be a third of the population overweight or obese. You know, it really isn't that simple.
Dan had a special reason for needing to lose weight. She and Dave wanted to have children, but she had difficulty conceiving.
One of the reasons that I had the operation to begin with was my husband and I went to see a fertility specialist, and he said that he wouldn't give me any sorts of treatment until I'd lost 100 kilos. So 15 stone was about there.
In 2006, Dan had a gastric bypass operation performed by Shaw Summers at St Richard's Hospital. Soon after, it seemed that life couldn't get any better.
It's been 7 months since my operation. I've lost an amazing 9 stone 8. I can't believe how good I feel. And I wanted to show you exactly what 9 stone 8 looks like. So I thought I'd build it with bricks and stones. Can you believe it? It's absolutely amazing. To think that I was carrying this weight around with me all the time, I cannot believe it. I hope that there's more to come, obviously, but this is just such a brilliant start. My life has changed dramatically. The biggest difference to me, there's 2. One, I can move properly now, whereas before I couldn't. It took so much effort. And the other thing is I can go anywhere and people don't look at me anymore. They don't stare, they don't giggle, there's no rude comments, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. So, I mean, my portion size has changed, hasn't it, so much?
It has changed, and I think as well the variety of food that you can eat has changed.
Husband Dave noticed the difference in his wife.
When she had the surgery the first time, it went really well, and she lost a lot of weight very quickly. We started going for walks together, things that she couldn't do, so we started doing a lot more as a couple.
But it wasn't to last. Dan lost 15 stone, but she was still denied the fertility treatment she so desperately wanted. It was a huge setback.
It devastated Dave and I, living with that fact, that, you know, even though I'd lost the weight that the first doctor had said, I wasn't able to get help. And having children was one of the things that I'd wanted all my life. Dave and I assumed that it was our role in life to be parents. It's how we were brought up. That, you know, you got a job and you found somebody you loved, if you were very lucky, and then you made children together. And that had gone. I felt like I died inside.
Dan went into decline, but whereas before she could turn to food when she was depressed, she now had to find a substitute.
When I got this news, basically started drinking more and more, and I ended up with a serious drinking problem.
When she heard this news about the fertility, the crutch was to go back to something, and it couldn't be food. So it was alcohol, and obviously alcohol is full of sugar. So you pile on the weight by drinking the alcohol because it just goes through even a tiny little stomach. The alcohol goes straight through, so you're just with sugar and you just pile on the weight. So you have a combination of both. You have a combination of an alcohol problem and the weight going on as well, so you have a dual.
My habit was, in the end, was about 3 bottles of wine a day, in the end. And vodka, about a quarter, half a bottle of vodka a day. And that was to stop me shaking in the mornings.
From a low of 16 stone, Dan's weight gradually increased to over 28 stone, and her drinking began to affect her marriage.
It was very difficult because there's no real relationship, because Dan is kind of, she's lost in her alcohol all the time, so when someone becomes an alcoholic, that's basically the be-all and end-all of their life. Is where's my next drink going to come from? So you don't have really a life as a married couple, because they're alcoholic, they're going to be drunk all the time, so you can't have conversations, you can't have a social life as such. So yeah, from that point of view, it has become difficult, because you end up almost living 2 independent lives, because you're trying to do your own thing, whereas Dan was just living in with alcohol addiction.
We've had a very tumultuous relationship, but one of his constant things has not been anything to do with size. He's accepted me at whichever size I am, which a girl can't get luckier than that.
While Dan wrestled with her alcoholism, her brother Martin was going from strength to strength. He had gastric bypass surgery shortly after his sister. He lost 8 stone in 6 months, and the weight kept falling off.
They were tailor-made, so they did fit like a glove. But now, even the trousers are a little on the big side.
This is the new super slim Martin, weighing 17 stone. He is literally half the man he was.
It does make it difficult, because my weight loss was going really well, and you kind of want to, look at me, how well I'm doing, I've got to buy new clothes, got to do this, got to do that, I can do the cycling, I can do the walking, I can fit in an airplane seat, these things that you sort of want to share with your family and friends, and yet you don't want to rub it in the nose of someone who's struggling, and Dan was struggling, and it was difficult. And I know she was pleased for me, but equally it doesn't do much for her morale to see someone else doing the opposite.
I have struggled with his success, I think, putting aside the sibling rivalry, and it's difficult to see anybody doing well when you're not. I found it incredibly difficult, but I was also aware of the fact that he needed to rejoice in the weight loss that he's achieved.
But before Dan herself could move on, she needed to make a big decision about her drinking.
I had to stop drinking. It was essential for me to stop drinking because it was going to kill me. And there was this whole conflict going inside of not being, of going through the decision of having bariatric surgery and wanting to change my way of life and being given that opportunity and then turning around and because food wasn't there, I'd switched to something else to give me comfort, which also was killing me.
Oh God, I think you have to love someone, and I think you have to make the choice if you really love someone, whether to stay or whether to go. And the choice is yours, you know, and I chose to stay and we chose to fight it together.
It came to a head, and we decided that, you know, I needed to stop, and I decided for me. And I've been sober for 21 months now, which I'm extremely proud of.
Beating the alcohol addiction was not the end of it. Dan continued to abuse food and effectively sabotaged her original operation.
When I stopped drinking, I needed that sugar rush back again. I needed that comfort, because everything, all my emotions, all my feelings were still there because I pushed my emotions down. And so I'd started putting on weight because of the intake of sugar that I was having through so much alcohol. And then the alcohol stopped and I was finding it with chocolate.
Dan's case was a challenge to her surgeon, Shaw Summers.
Danielle is one of my special patients. I like my special patients. They are a real challenge. Not everybody has a plain sailing route with weight loss surgery. It is a lot to cope with enforced weight loss. And when you put that onto somebody on the background of having a psychologically hard time which leads them to eat, making them lose weight, making them cope with a different life, cope with not being able to eat, some people just can't do it. And it leads them to undergoing what we call self-destructive behaviour, sabotaging behaviour. Yes, the weight's coming off, but they start doing things which actually try and counteract that. They either start eating the wrong things or turn to things like alcohol. But it's what makes my job challenging. It's helping people through that, recognising it, and if necessary, dealing with it with further help. But sometimes further surgery is needed.
In 2011, Dan was given a second chance. Shaw agreed to revise her original gastric bypass operation to tighten up the entrance into her stomach pouch.
It wasn't an easy decision for me to make either, to go through major surgery again. But I knew I'd had the taste of what life was, losing weight, and I wanted that again. I still want it. I'm very hungry for it, and I'm getting there.
Since her second operation, Dan has begun to lose weight again, with the help of husband Dave and the support of brother Martin. But she knows it will be a continuing mental struggle.
You know, I do believe that, you know, in a perfect world, well, in a perfect world we wouldn't be fat, but in the perfect world of obesity surgery, there would be psychotherapy right the way through, because you're left alone to get to know this new madness, you know, and it takes a great deal of awareness to actually adjust to what comes along. This is Martin's plate. It's a family joke because he doesn't like vegetables. So at Christmas time he was always made to have 2 sprouts and a couple of bits of carrots and peas.
I think it is difficult for someone to deal with an addiction to alcoholism is one thing, to deal with sort of the weight loss and those kinds of problems. To combine the two makes for an exceptionally difficult weight loss journey and life. And I think I'm really proud of the way that Dan dealt with, first of all, the drinking, and that's probably the one that has to get sorted out first. And now he's moving on and losing weight again, and I think that's really good.
Oh, well, Mart. Spot the one who hasn't had bariatric surgery at this table. Yeah.
Dan's struggle is far from unique. 1 in 5 patients who have had weight loss surgery have what's called transferred addiction. With food no longer available as a coping strategy, the patient has to turn to something else. Dr. Amelia Hollywood is a health psychologist at the bariatric unit at St. Richard's Hospital.
Transfer of addiction isn't always a negative thing. It can go from food to alcohol or drugs, but it could also go to someone becoming addicted with exercise or sex. Some of our patients have gone on to run marathons or have become fitness instructors where they've lost all the weight and they're enjoying exercise more. And also sex, they've lost weight, they feel better about themselves and they're enjoying sex more.
Back in Southampton, Ian's wait for news about his operation is finally over. With a BMI of 67 and weighing 34 stone, he's been desperate for surgery. And now, in 10 days' time, he'll have a gastric bypass operation.
I know 58 years of my eating habits are going to have to be forgotten. It'll be a complete change in terms of what I eat, when I eat. Still going to have to be on a diet, but at least it gives the opportunity for the weight, the excess weight loss, to be lost quickly. I'm cooking the girls' favourite meal. I'm allowed to say it's probably my least favourite meal, or has been up until recently. They love pasta. It's seen by me very much as the last chance I shall have at this age, at this size. A surgeon gives me a fighting chance, so it means everything.
This may be his daughter's favourite meal, but there'll be no pasta for Ian. He's only allowed a strawberry milkshake. In preparation for his operation, he's on a strict milk-only diet. This is designed to shrink the size of his liver to make it easier for Shaw to access his stomach during surgery.
Oh, let's see what there is in here that I'm not going to eat again.
Ian is already looking forward to life after his operation. His diet is going to change radically forever, and it's time for Ian to clear out his freezer.
Bread, the girls, they'll eat that, no problem. Salmon, visitors perhaps. Scampi, nobody eats scampi here. Scampi, scones. Chips, the girls will eat the chips. Huge pork joint, that will never get eaten. Here, I think somebody's due a treat. I can't believe I'm going to be giving fillet steak away. Although Katie quite likes some, so that won't be too bad. So the steak, bacon, and the best burgers you've ever eaten in your life. So they're going to go. So that's just one of 6 drawers. Steak. Salmon steak.
It's early morning in Chichester. Ian's big day has finally arrived. Before his operation, he has one last visit from Shaw.
Good morning, Ian.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Yeah.
You all set?
All set? Yeah.
Today's your day.
I think, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yours?
Well, yes.
You can turn up as well.
I've got a little job as well, yes. No, I will turn up. I'm here now. So today, I'm aiming to do a gastric bypass operation for you so that we can reduce your appetite, change the way the food works when it gets into your system so that your system works a bit more efficiently for you, and also put you off sweet things.
Right.
Okay, and the way those 3 things work means that it enables you to lose weight much more efficiently, and that's what we need to do to get your health back on track.
Okay.
Clearly, my #1 priority is to keep you safe today. Now, you're a big fella, and there are some risks to surgery, but our job is to minimise those and to get you through this as safely as possible.
Yeah.
If I can give you a pen and talk you through, that's you, Ian McConnell.
Yep.
You're going to have a keyhole gastric bypass surgery for weight loss and improvement in your health.
Yep.
And ask you to sign and date to say that you agree to the procedure and you're happy with what we've discussed.
I'm a lawyer, you wouldn't expect me to read the small print, would you?
As a lawyer, I'm sure you're aware the small print actually in this circumstance means very little.
So a little bit anxious, I suppose, is a word when the girls left, because I could see they were on the edge of being upset, which of course makes you as a parent on the edge of being upset, but I think we got by. So yeah, very positive for the operation.
Bariatric patients are asked to walk down to the operating theatre. This helps their circulation and reduces the risk of blood clots after the operation.
The only time I've really worried is probably on the way here this morning. Never been under general anaesthetic before. Didn't have to drag me from halfway down the dual carriageway running home. A, because I couldn't run on the dual carriageway, and B, because I don't know the way home anyway. It's like having a cartoon, isn't it?
Alright, start this off. I'm going to squeeze it.
Right.
Open it close to 4,000 times on the start.
At the same time, lift your left leg.
Gosh, I'm a bloke, I can't multitask.
Well said.
This is Ian McConnell. He's 58 years of age and his body mass index is nearly 70, so he's a very large chap, and clearly he needs surgery to help that. You only get the impression of how big some of these patients are when you see them the side of me. I'm not small, but you could probably fit 3 of me across the width here. Let's have a little look. To get into his tummy, right, I'm there. He's got a hernia up there, there you go. Oof. Horrible looking liver.
Shaw makes small incisions to insert the ports through which his instruments will pass into the abdomen.
Okay, so I've managed to get access into Ian's tummy, but he's got the most enormous liver still. It's partly fatty, partly cirrhotic. You can see it's got that yellow motley colour. Not good, but partly that's the reason we're doing this, because it's his obesity that's causing that fatty liver, and that will cause him to not get any better. And almost whatever he tries, however he tries to diet, it's not really going to work.
The first stage of the operation is to bypass almost a metre of Ian's small intestine.
So the bypass route involves me cutting the small intestine and joining it in a way that short-circuits it a bit.
This short-circuiting of the system fools the body into thinking it has eaten too much. There is an aversion to eating sweet foods and an overall loss of appetite.
As you can see, Ian is quite fatty inside. He's got a lot of fat around this thing called the omentum, and that is characteristic amongst obese men, that the majority of their fat is actually around their internal organs. And actually that's much more dangerous fat. It tends to affect the function of the organs and their metabolism a lot more, for reasons we're still not entirely sure about. So Ian's got a particularly nasty form of fat distribution. So we tend to find that men are iller for a given weight than women are. They tend to have much more bad side effects from it. And obviously the more fat that's inside, that's internal, the harder the surgery is, because everything's surrounded by a layer of butter, and it's just that much harder to see what you're doing and to achieve a good quality result. Okay, I've now cut the intestine to start the bypass, so this bit will never see food again, and this is the bit that's going to come up and carries the food from the small pouch that I'm going to create later.
The second stage of the operation is to reduce Ian's stomach to the size of an egg.
Now, shall I come under?
But to get access to the stomach, Shaw has to use a metal hook to lift Ian's liver out of the way.
I'm going to try and fold the liver over on itself. It won't like it, but it might give me... No, I'm not going to get it. That's going to split. The liver's a bit like blancmange. It doesn't enjoy being mucked about with too much.
Now with the stomach revealed, Shaw uses a staple gun to create the small stomach pouch. But it's not easy.
The absolute limit of my instruments. Just struggling with the fact that Ian is such a big framed person. He's as wide as he is tall. Okay, that's going to have to do. That will teach him. Fantastic. So that's the stomach divided into 2. So this is the bit that won't see food anymore, about 90% of the stomach, and this is the little pouch that I'm going to next join to the bit of intestine that I made earlier. Now, where's my little needle that I left earlier? Men are generally harder to operate on than ladies because the fat tends to be around the internal organs and around the tummy, and that clearly makes it more difficult for me for access. Also, for any given weight and age, men tend to be less healthy than women, and so for my colleagues at the top end of the table, for the anaesthetists, it's harder to keep the men on the straight and level for surgery compared to the ladies. So I think by and large we prefer ladies to operate on because they tend to be easier, but if you like, in order to save lives, the men are the ones to really target.
Ian's surgery has been going on for over an hour now. It's an anxious time for the family, but daughter Holly can look forward to a new life ahead with her dad.
It's been weird, and we've definitely been worrying about Dad, because, like, we're not used to... Well, like, we're used to being away from him, but not him away from us, and, like, home. Like, it's weird that it's actually happening to our dad. We've never really known him as, like, slimmer. And, I wouldn't say it's going to be, like, a new him, but it's just going to be, like, a new part to the story, but just my dad, but not as big.
Shaw has now reached the final stage of Ian's surgery.
Now I've got to join the two bits together, the pouch and the small intestine, to finish the bypass. Every operation I do has its own particular challenges, even the ones that are technically straightforward. And no two bypasses are actually the same. So it's unlike changing a clutch in a car where you put the new part in and it works just like new. This is, thanks. This is surgery that is fundamentally going to change the patient's habits and change the way their food processing works, and you've got to know what aspects of your operation are going to do what bits for an individual patient. And that's really what makes surgery different to a lot of other aspects of medicine. Yep, that's the bypass. There's my join, exactly where it should be. Fantastic, good.
2 hours after the operation started, Ian's gastric bypass is completed.
The operation was tricky in respect to the fact that Ian is so wide. My instruments are only 30 centimetres long, so unfortunately when I got to the end of my instrument, that's it. I either have to push or manoeuvre the operation to my instruments, and that's really where the experience comes in, knowing how to deal with situations where the unexpected happens.
The operation has been successful, and Ian heads off to the recovery unit with a brand new and much smaller stomach. "24 hours after Ian's operation, Chris Pring, another surgeon in Shaw Summers' team, is on his ward round.
Hello, Ian. How are you, boss? Chris Pring. We haven't met, but no, how are you feeling this morning? Are you?
Feeling good. I wondered whether you'd actually done anything.
Did you? Everything looks fine here, Ian.
Good.
Where are you from?
Started in Manchester.
Oh, you're Manchester, are you? All right, OK.
Alongside the Pennines for you.
Yes, that's right. Well spotted. Well, we'll get you up onto cups of tea and things, and
Yes, thank you.
Veronica.
Pizza would be lovely.
Oh yeah, right.
I've stopped the fluid because
All I keep getting from the children is, will you be home tomorrow, Dad? Is it too soon to call?
Yeah, you probably will be. You'll be back tomorrow, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. OK. Well, I'll see you tomorrow morning anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
That's good news for Ian. He can now tell his daughters that he'll be home tomorrow morning. At the end of another busy day at the hospital, Chris is off to give a talk to a local support group for patients who have already undergone bariatric surgery.
I guess normally I'd be at home now with my family, but it's, I don't know, this is just one of those extra things that goes with the territory, really. I quite enjoy doing it. It's nice to see everybody. It's important that they know that we're still supporting them, you know.
The group Chris is visiting has been run for the last 5 years by Dan Reaney. She knows how crucial mutual support can be for patients.
I feel that they're essential to recuperate as successfully as possible after the op. You know, sharing with other people who are going through the same situation as you. It can be extremely traumatic when you regain weight, and you know, I know that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling with weight gain, and you know, that's the time that they need to be accessing support.
Whilst the surgery fixes a lot of the anatomical and physiological problems that are associated with obesity. We're not fixing the psychological aspects of it. And, you know, that remains an ongoing battle for a lot of our patients. There's sort of the psychology behind it all.
I get very nervous before every group. You know, it's held in a pub, you know, I still have times where, you know, a bit of Dutch courage wouldn't go amiss, or just socialising and enjoying a G&T or a glass of wine would be very nice. But that's not a good thing for me to do. It is time for me to get a move on, and it's time to go to the support group. It's going to be a good evening, and looking forward to seeing Chris Pring.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming, and welcome to Sussex Group. I'm so glad you could come. It's great. Our special guest for this evening. Without further ado, over to Chris. Thanks.
The weight loss journey can be long and complicated, and sharing the experiences of fellow patients can be important, but the success of bariatric surgery is still dependent on hard work and determination.
Here is to sort of show you that, particularly if you've had a gastric bypass or a sleeve gastrectomy, this is the part of the bowel here that we're bypassing. If you've had a bypass, this diagram shows why these vitamins and these minerals are really important to stay on top of.
What's the youngest age you would be prepared to operate on?
Well, okay, so is it... I would do a bypass or a ban. In fact, a bypass is better in younger people. 14? That's what people
so
do.
when you... Yeah.
Physiologically mature.
Yeah.
That's and I think it's something like 13 for girls and 16 for boys, or something like this. It's younger for girls, but, you know, physiologically mature. You've gone through the proper MD multidisciplinary process. You work out the risks and benefits, and, you know, and if it's the benefit outweighs the risk, then you do it.
Among the patients here are some who Chris himself has operated on, although recognising them isn't always easy.
Amazing, really. I did her operation 18 months ago, and I didn't recognise her at all. And she's done incredibly well. Not only did I do a bariatric operation, I then did a gallbladder operation about 9 months ago, and I didn't recognise her. I was a bit embarrassed.
Becoming self-aware happens in these groups. I see it. I see people blossoming and actually coming out of themselves, and actually to see that transformation it doesn't get much better than that, because it's not an easy journey. It's a very complex journey, and it's not an easy option.
Ian knows this only too well. It's been 6 months since he had his gastric bypass operation, and the weight has been falling off. Amazingly, he has already lost over 9 stone. He finds his new body shape difficult to believe.
Mirrors are not things that I've actually looked into very much. It's great when you're shaving because you just see from the neck upwards. But yes, there's a full-length mirror at the top of the stairs. It's a time when you look in that and I'm so staggered at what the picture was before and what it is now. It's not good to look in a mirror. As I say to one or two, my bum still looks big in this at the moment, but the rest of me seems to be falling off, and long may it continue.
In just 6 months, Ian has lost a massive 10 inches off his waistline, 8 inches off his chest, and his collar size has gone from 24 inches to 18.5 inches. So finding clothes in his wardrobe that fit him is his latest challenge.
Okay.
With a shirt that's way too big, Ian and daughter Holly are heading for a day out in the countryside.
Ooh, I might try without the seatbelt.
For the first time in years, Ian can do without his seatbelt extension. It's a real tangible sign of just how far he has come.
Well, hey, look at that. Don't need that anymore.
Before Ian's operation, leaving the house took enormous effort and courage, and going for a walk in the New Forest was unthinkable just a few months ago.
Weak bridge, it's encouraging.
Me and Katie have really noticed a difference in Dad in, like, physically, as the weight is literally dropping off him, and just how he can walk, like, further and not have to get out of breath. He's just become a more fitter, healthier person.
Like many other patients, Ian's found that with his weight loss, his confidence has grown.
Yeah, it's strange to come for a walk in the forest, to be honest. I can't remember the last time we actually did that, or last time we actually wanted to do it. It's just been the embarrassment, I suppose, getting out of breath so easily. And if girls that wanted to come to the forest, I'd happily bring them, but it'd be me sat in the car waiting for them while they went and did something. Now, suddenly, I feel as though I've got more enthusiasm because of physical ability to be able to do it. So, yeah, bring on the marathon? Well, bring on the next long walk anyway.
And as Dan's weight loss journey continues, she and Dave are coming to terms with everything that has happened to them.
We've decided that for our well-being that we're going to put aside having children and concentrate on working on our personal development and our development as a couple, because it's too painful to revisit.
And Dave thinks Dan will find her own unique way back to a more normal life.
I think for every individual it has to be an independent journey that they have to do on their own, pick their own goals and to try and achieve their own goals and not worry about the goals that someone else has achieved, because everyone's different. I think Dan is back to the Dan that I met in 2000. She's smiley, very interactive, likes going out, likes back into socialising. So yeah, I think it's going to be very good.
Right, let's get these hounds up the park.
Martin is confident that second time round, his sister will make a success of her obesity surgery.
I think the future's looking good. There's still a ways to go, but she's done it before and she can do it again, and she will do it again. And I think, you know, as her mobility starts to come back, her confidence will start to rise again, and they can start to live more of a normal life as people see it. And actually, it's fun to be normal, and I'm looking forward to the time when Dan reaches that point.
Are we going to Buck Park? Oh, it's your favourite, boys. I do like going to Buck Park, don't you?
I have two dogs. They have been life-saving, and probably treated more like children than they're probably meant to be. I am aware they're just dogs, but they're extremely special.
Dan has nothing but admiration for her brother and hopes soon she will achieve similar results.
His success is incredible, not only physically, but, mentally. I couldn't be happier for him. That's even thinking, you bugger, at the same time. That would, whatever happens with me, I will always be extremely happy for Martin.
Dan's now lost 5 stones since her second weight loss operation, and in the next year hopes to lose another 9.